Good evening, everyone. I'm David Gerard, and this is Pivot to AI, coming to you daily. Today, OpenAI really needs $40 billion just to keep the lights on. OpenAI arranged a deal with SoftBank for the money, where SoftBank would run a funding round to get $10 billion from other investors, and SoftBank would also chuck in $30 billion of its own on top. But of that $30 billion from SoftBank, $10 billion would only be released when OpenAI successfully converted from a weird, top-heavy charity into an ordinary, for-profit company. And OpenAI had to do this by the end of 2025. OpenAI and SoftBank did this deal in April. It's only August, that's plenty of time, right? It turns out there have been some speed bumps along the way, particularly Microsoft, who have a huge investment in OpenAI and were not convinced. OpenAI even tried blackmailing Microsoft that they'd file anti-competitive behavior complaints. Remember that Microsoft already has rights to all OpenAI's software. They could just take the whole GPT series and leave OpenAI to hang. I think the GPT-5 announcement was timed to try to convince Microsoft they'd do better to keep OpenAI alive and not just break it up for parts. Anyway, today the Financial Times reveals that Microsoft is still less than convinced. The sticking points are the same as they were a few months ago. 1. Microsoft wants exclusive rights to resell OpenAI models. Microsoft Azure Cloud only. But OpenAI wants to sell through Google and Amazon as well, because they need the revenue. 2. OpenAI wants to cut off Microsoft's rights to the software when OpenAI finally achieves AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. But in this deal, AGI doesn't mean a human equivalent mind that thinks. It means OpenAI makes $100 billion in profit. So here, AGI means actually generates income. Microsoft wants to remove that clause and have ongoing rights to the software. Microsoft and OpenAI are also negotiating just how big a share of the new for-profit OpenAI goes to Microsoft in the deal. There's one other tiny detail blocking the deal. You can't just turn a charity into a for-profit company. You really can't. So any deal has to pass muster with the states of Delaware and California. Here's the Financial Times. Quote, even with a swifter resolution of its contract with Microsoft, discussions with other stakeholders and the attorneys general in California and Delaware, where OpenAI operates and is incorporated, could well extend into next year. Unquote. The FT gives the state approval problem one sentence in passing, but it's a blocker that was already in place, and it's a critical blocker on the deal for the $10 billion. The states aren't just a minor matter, and neither state is very keen to let this deal happen just because Sam Altman really wants it. So OpenAI is going to have some problems come the end of the year. I thought this risked being fatal for OpenAI, but now I'm thinking OpenAI will be able to get some cash in because venture capital runs on imaginary dollars now, and they actually beat real dollars. OpenAI is draining SoftBank of actual dollars, but SoftBank still look like geniuses because OpenAI's imaginary made-up valuations are going up. So SoftBank can write down some really big imaginary numbers. See, OpenAI is doing a secondary sale where employees can dump their shares for actual money. They're only selling a small number of shares, but the price tag on those shares would mean OpenAI was worth $500 billion total. If you just said every share was worth as much as the tiny little sale. SoftBank's dumped $9.7 billion actual dollars into OpenAI, but this new valuation would mean that $9.7 billion was worth almost double that. And those imaginary dollars make up for a lot of the losses in SoftBank's Vision Fund 2. Better yet, SoftBank's going to put in another $22.5 billion actual dollars, but at the old valuation. So it's immediately worth $43 billion made up imaginary dollars on paper. And that's enough to pull Vision Fund 2 out of the red completely on paper. To repeat, 43 billion imaginary dollars on paper beats 22.5 billion real actual dollars in your hands. Now, you might think all of this is dumb nonsense, so SoftBank can shuffle around fake numbers based only on one tiny secondary sale. And you're correct. It's about keeping up the kayfabe. Imaginary dollars on paper are just how Wall Street does business now. SoftBank's stock price is going up. So the market loves this. Even as OpenAI makes up 34% of Vision Fund 2 at a massive, massive risk. This means SoftBank has all the incentive to make sure OpenAI does not die. So I think there's a fair chance SoftBank extends OpenAI's deadline and might even suck in some other investors, as long as SoftBank thinks OpenAI can in fact achieve the for-profit conversion. If OpenAI doesn't convert, well, Sam, there's always a job for you at Microsoft. There's one other OpenAI matter I can't not mention, and that's the lawsuit that dropped yesterday about the teenage boy that ChatGPT allegedly drove to suicide. So obviously I'm going to need to take my time and do that one very properly. But so far, this lawsuit is horrifying, and frankly, Sam Altman needs to be in jail. That last one is something I think people should be saying a lot more. I will be emailing my MP that ChatGPT needs to be barred from schools in the UK where they're trying to shove it in. I think that's a good first move. If you're in the UK, contact your MP and say the same thing. Thanks for tuning in to Pivot to AI. Please do hit like and subscribe, leave a nice podcast review, and Pivot's work here is funded by you, the viewers and listeners. So please do drop just $5 into the Patreon, linked in the show notes below. And if you can pass this episode on to at least one person, that really helps a lot. Thank you all. See you tomorrow, and bye for now.